The cargo platform was cold. Ziravel pulled the thin thermal blanket tighter around her body, but it did nothing to stop the shaking. She did not know if she was shaking from the cold or from the fear that lived deep inside her chest. The Valkyrie freighter Shattered Dawn had left 3 hours ago. She had watched it go through the large window of the docking bay. The ship grew smaller and smaller until it was just a tiny light among thousands of stars. Then it was gone. Her people were gone. They had left her here like broken cargo that nobody wanted. Zira tried to move her legs again. Nothing. Her tail lay still behind her, useless and dead. The accident on the mining expedition had destroyed something inside her spine. The Valkyrie doctors had looked at her scans and shaken their heads. There was nothing they could do. Her neural connection was severed. She would never walk again. Among the Valkyrie, this was the worst thing that could happen. Her species believed in contribution. Every person had to give something to the group. A worker who could not work was a mouth that consumed but gave nothing back. The old laws were clear about such matters. The captain had the right to leave her behind. She remembered his face when he told her. Captain Von Kell had not been cruel about it. He had simply stated the facts like he was reading a report. You are now a burden, Ziravel. The ship cannot carry burdens. You will be left at Nexus 7. Perhaps someone there will have use for you. No one had use for her. She knew this. The training station was filled with aliens from dozens of different species. They walked past her without stopping. Some looked at her with curiosity. Most did not look at her at all. She was invisible. She was nothing. The nutrient pack beside her held enough food for 3 days. After that, she did not know what would happen. She tried not to think about it. Thinking about the future made the fear grow bigger until she could not breathe. Her 4 silver eyes watched the crowds moving through the station. Division in the station. There were tall beings with blue skin and short beings covered in fur. There were creatures that floated instead of walked, and machines that might have been alive. None of them stalked. None of them cared. Zira closed her eyes and tried to remember her home. The purple forests of Velkar Prime. The warm pools where young ones learned to swim. Her mother's voice singing the old songs. But the memories felt far away now, like they belonged to someone else. That Zira was gone. This Zira was alone on a cold platform, waiting for an end she could not escape. She heard footsteps approaching. Heavy boots on metal floor. She did not open her eyes. It was probably station security coming to move her somewhere else. They would not want garbage blocking the cargo routes. The footsteps stopped right beside her. Double quotes. Hey, you okay? The voice was strange. Zira opened her eyes and saw a creature she had never seen before. It stood on 2 legs like many species did, but its skin was a soft brown color, and it had hair only on top of its head. Dark hair, messy and uncombed. Its eyes were small compared to hers, and they were a deep green color. The creature was looking down at her with an expression she could not read. I asked if you were okay, the creature said again. Its voice was gentle, not harsh. Zira tried to speak, but her throat was dry. She had not talked to anyone in hours. I am discarded, she finally said. My ship left me. The creature made a face. Its features twisted in a way that seemed wrong. They just left you here. On the floor? I am paralyzed. I cannot walk. I cannot work. I have no value. Zira said the words without emotion. They were simply facts. The creature knelt down beside her. Up close, she could see that it wore simple clothes that were stained with oil and dirt. A worker of some kind. That's not right, the creature said. That's not how you treat people. I am Valkyrie. This is our way. Well, it's a terrible way. The creature looked around the platform, then back at her. I'm Connor. Connor Hayes. I'm human. What's your name? Human. Zira had heard of humans, a young species that had only recently come to the stars. They were known for being emotional and unpredictable. Some species thought they were primitive. Others thought they were dangerous. Zira had never met one before. I am Ziravel, she said quietly. Connor nodded. Okay, Zira, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to pick you up and take you to my ship. You're going to eat some real food and sleep in an actual bed. We'll figure out the rest later. Zira stared at him. Why would you do this? You do not know me. I cannot pay you. I cannot offer you anything. Connor smiled. It was a strange expression that showed his teeth, but somehow it did not seem threatening. You don't have to offer me anything. You're hurt and you need help. That's enough. He did not wait for her to agree. Connor bent down and lifted her carefully, one arm under her legs and one behind her back. Zira was surprised by how warm he was. Valkyrie were cold-blooded, but humans seemed to generate heat like small engines. My ship isn't fancy, Connor said, as he carried her through the station. It's actually pretty old and kind of falling apart. But it's warm and it's safe. I've got a medical droid who can check you out. His name is Henry IV. He's grumpy, but he knows what he's doing. Zira did not understand why this was happening. Every rule she knew said that abandoned people stayed abandoned. No one helped them because helping them was wasteful. Yet here was this strange human, carrying her like she mattered, talking to her like she was a person instead of broken garbage. I do not understand you, she whispered. Connor looked down at her. What's not to understand? You needed help. I was here. Simple as that. It was not simple. Nothing about this was simple. But Zira was too tired and too confused to argue. She let herself be carried through the crowded corridors of Nexus 7, past all the aliens who had ignored her, toward a ship belonging to a species she had never met. For the first time in weeks, she did not feel completely alone. The drifting sparrow was exactly as Connor had described it. Old, small, and filled with the smell of engine grease. But when Connor placed her gently on a bunk in the corner of the cargo bay and covered her with a thick blanket, Zira felt something she had forgotten existed. She felt warm. And in that warmth, hidden deep beneath her fear and her shame, a tiny seed of hope began to grow. 3 days passed on the drifting sparrow. 3 days that changed everything Zira thought she knew about the universe. On the first day, she expected Connor to ask what she could do for him. Among the Valkyrie, nothing was free. Every gift came with a price. Every kindness had a contract hidden behind it. She waited for him to explain what he wanted from her. He never did. Instead, he brought her food. Real food, not the nutrient packs that tasted like metal and sadness. He made something he called soup, a warm liquid filled with vegetables from a human colony world. It was strange, but good. Zira ate until her stomach was full for the first time in weeks. Sorry if it's not what you're used to, Connor said, sitting on a crate across from her bunk. I'm not the best cook. My sister always tells me I could burn water if I tried hard enough. Zira did not know what burning water meant, but she understood the feeling behind the words. It is good, she said. Thank you. Connor smiled, that strange teeth-showing smile. You don't have to keep thanking me. Seriously, it's just soup. It was not just soup. Zira knew this even if Connor did not. It was proof that someone saw her as worth feeding. That was more valuable than any payment. On the second day, Henry IV examined her. The medical droid was a boxing machine with multiple arms and a single glowing eye that changed colors based on his mood. Green meant calm. Yellow meant thinking. Red meant trouble. When he scanned Zira's spine, his eye flickered between yellow and orange for a long time. Neural pathway severed at the third vertebral junction, Henry IV announced in his flat mechanical voice. Standard Valkyrie medicine cannot repair this damage. The species lacks the necessary regenerative technology. Zira already knew this. Hearing it again made her chest feel tight. But the droid continued, there may be other options. Human medical science has made advances in neural bridge technology. It is experimental. It is not guaranteed. But it exists. Connor leaned forward. Can you fix her? I cannot. My programming and equipment are insufficient for such a procedure. However, I can stabilize her condition and prevent further deterioration while you seek proper medical care. Connor nodded like this was the most obvious thing in the world. Okay, where do we find proper medical care? Your sister, Dr. Emma Hayes, operates a xenobiology clinic at Meridian Station. She has performed neural reconstructions on several alien species. I estimate a 34% chance of partial mobility restoration. 34%. It was not a large number, but it was not zero. To Zira, who had been told she would never move her legs again, 34% sounded like a miracle. Connor was already moving to the cockpit, setting course for Meridian Station. We'll be there in about 8 days. Zira watched him go, still unable to understand. Connor, she called out. He stopped and looked back at her. Your sister. Will she help me? I am not human. I cannot pay. Connor walked back to her bunk and sat down on the edge. His green eyes were serious now. My sister became a doctor because she wanted to help people. All people, not just humans. She's not going to care what species you are or whether you can pay. She's going to care that you're hurt and that she might be able to help. But why? I do not understand why humans are like this. Connor was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. Can I tell you something about humans? Zira nodded. We're not the strongest species out there. We're not the smartest or the oldest or the most advanced. We got to the stars pretty late compared to everyone else. But we survived because we took care of each other. When someone in the group got hurt, we didn't leave them behind. We carried them. When someone couldn't hunt, we shared our food with them. It's just how we're built. He paused, looking at his hands. I know the Valkyrie think that's wasteful. Maybe it is. But I'd rather be wasteful and kind than efficient and cruel. Zira felt something wet on her face. She touched her cheek and found moisture there. She was crying. She had not cried since she was a small child. I was told I was worthless, she said, her voice breaking. My captain said I was a burden. He said I had no value. Connor's expression changed. His jaw tightened and his eyes grew hard. But the hardness was not directed at her. She could see that clearly. He was angry at someone else. Angry at the people who had hurt her. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, he said quietly. You're not worthless. You're hurt. There's a big difference. And being hurt doesn't make you a burden. It makes you someone who needs help. There's nothing shameful about that. No one had ever said such things to her. Zira cried harder, and Connor did something that surprised her completely. He put his arm around her shoulders and held her while she cried. He did not tell her to stop. He did not seem uncomfortable with her tears. He just stayed there, warm and solid, until the crying finally slowed. You're going to be okay, he said softly. I don't know exactly how, but we're going to figure it out. You're not alone anymore, Zira. I promise. On the third day, Connor contacted his sister. Zira watched the communication screen as a human female appeared. Emma Hayes had the same green eyes as her brother, but her hair was longer and pulled back from her face. She looked tired but kind. Connor, what have you gotten yourself into now? Emma asked, but she was smiling. Connor explained everything. He told his sister about finding Zira on the cargo platform. He told her about the Valkyrie abandonment laws. He told her about Henry IV's diagnosis. Emma listened without interrupting, her expression growing more serious with each detail. When Connor finished, Emma looked directly at Zira. "Ziravel, can you hear me?" "Yes," Zira answered, her voice small. "I'm not going to lie to you. The procedure I do is experimental. It might not work perfectly. You might not regain full mobility, but I've had success with similar cases before. If you're willing to try, I'm willing to help." "Why?" Zira asked. She could not stop asking this question. "Why would you help a stranger?" Emma smiled. It was the same warm smile as her brother's. "Because that's what we do. That's what humans do. We help because we can, because it's right, and because every person deserves a chance. Including you." Zira looked at Connor, who nodded encouragingly. Then she looked back at Emma on the screen. "I am willing to try," she said, and for the first time since the accident, she actually believed that things might get better. The tiny seed of hope that had started on the first day was growing now, spreading roots through her chest, making her feel stronger than she had in months. These strange, warm humans had given her something her own people had taken away. They had given her a future. The message came on the 5th day of their journey. Connor was in the cockpit, checking their course to Meridian Station, when his communication panel lit up with an incoming signal. The frequency was old, one that traders used when they wanted to share information quietly. Connor opened the channel. A face appeared on the screen. It was a scarred old man named Gus Porter, one of the information brokers who worked at Nexus 7. Connor had done business with him before. Gus was not a good person, but he was honest about being dishonest, and sometimes that was enough. "Connor Hayes," Gus said. "You stepped in something deep this time, boy." Connor felt his stomach tighten. "What are you talking about?" "That alien girl you picked up. The paralyzed one. Word is getting around. Some Valkyrie came asking questions about you yesterday. They wanted to know your ship registry, your flight plan, everything." "What kind of Valkyrie?" Gus leaned closer to the camera. His eyes were serious. "The hunting kind. 3 of them, all wearing military gear, led by some cold-eyed commander with scars on his face. They called themselves a recovery team." Connor's blood went cold. "Recovery team? They want the girl back, Connor. Something about her being from an important family. Her father is some kind of politician on their homeworld. Her being alive and in human hands is causing problems for them. Big problems." Connor thought about Zira, who was sleeping in the cargo bay. She had not mentioned anything about being from an important family. Then again, she had barely talked about her past at all. The pain was still too fresh. What did they want to do with her? Gus shrugged. "Officially? Bring her home. Unofficially? Who knows? The Valkyrie don't like embarrassment. A crippled daughter surviving when she should have been forgotten. That makes people ask uncomfortable questions about their loss." Connor understood. Zira was not just an abandoned girl anymore. She was evidence that the Valkyrie system was cruel. If she lived, if she recovered, she would be proof that their ways were wrong. Some people did not like having their beliefs proven wrong. "Thanks for the warning, Gus. I owe you one." Gus nodded. "Be careful, boy. These hunters, they're not playing games. They'll follow you across the galaxy if they have to." The screen went dark. Connor sat in the pilot's chair for a long time, thinking. He thought about turning around, about finding somewhere to hide. But hiding would not solve the problem. The hunters would keep looking. Zira would never be safe. He made a decision. He would not hide. He would not run. He would get Zira to Meridian Station, get her the medical help she needed, and deal with the hunters if they caught up. Connor did not tell Zira about the message. She was doing better now. Henry IV had built her a mobility frame from spare parts, a simple wheeled chair that let her move around the ship by herself. She was practicing with it every day, pushing herself down the corridors, building up her arm strength. She was smiling more. Connor did not want to take that away from her, but the universe did not care about what Connor wanted. 2 days later, they reached the boundary rift. It was a stretch of space that most pilots avoided. The gravity fields were unstable, the navigation charts were incomplete, and ships had been known to disappear there without any trace. Connor had flown through it once before, years ago, when he was young and stupid and thought he was immortal. He was not young anymore, and he knew he was not immortal. But the rift was the fastest way to Meridian Station, and it would be almost impossible for the hunters to follow them through it. "We're going through there?" Henry IV asked, his eye glowing a worried orange. "Yes. The probability of navigation error is significant. The ship may sustain damage. I know. You are choosing danger over safety. This seems unwise." Connor looked back at the cargo bay, where Zero was sleeping. "Sometimes danger is safety. If those hunters catch up to us in open space, we don't stand a chance. But if we make it through the rift, we'll be at Meridian Station before they can find us again." Henry IV processed this information. His eye flickered. "Your logic is acceptable. Barely." The drifting sparrow entered the boundary rift. It was worse than Connor remembered. The ship shook constantly as gravity waves pushed and pulled at the hull. Alarms screamed warnings about stress fractures and power fluctuations. Connor gripped the controls so hard his hands hurt, fighting to keep them on course. Zero woke up during the worst of it. She pulled herself into her mobility frame and rolled to the cockpit door. Her 4 silver eyes were wide with fear. "What is happening?" "Shortcut," Connor said through gritted teeth. "Don't worry. I've done this before." A violent shudder threw Zira against the doorframe. She grabbed a handle to steady herself. "This does not feel like a shortcut. This feels like dying. Those are sometimes the same thing." Despite everything, Zira laughed. It was a small, scared laugh, but it was real. Connor found himself smiling, even as he wrestled with the controls. "I will trust you," she said. "You have not let me down yet." Those words gave Connor strength he did not know he had. He focused on the navigation data, finding paths through the chaos, avoiding the worst of the gravity wells. The ship groaned and complained, but it held together. 6 hours later, they emerged on the other side of the rift. The stars were calm. The ship was damaged but flying. They were alive. Connor slumped back in his chair, exhausted. "See? Shortcut." Zero rolled up beside him. "You are either very brave or very crazy, Connor Hayes." "Probably both," he admitted. Henry IV began listing the repairs that would be needed. Several hull plates were cracked. The left engine was running at reduced power. The water recycler was making strange noises. But none of it was critical. They could make it to Meridian Station. Behind them, far on the other side of the rift, a Valkyrie hunting ship emerged from hyperspace. Sorenvek stood on the bridge, staring at the swirling chaos of the boundary rift. "They went through there," one of his hunters reported. Sorenvek said nothing. His scarred face showed no emotion, but inside he felt something he had not felt in a long time. Respect. The human was clever. Going through the rift was a bold move, possibly a foolish one. But the target was still alive, which meant it had worked. "Plot a course around the rift," Sorenvex ordered. "We will take the long way. The human has bought himself time, nothing more. We will find them eventually. We always do." The hunting ship turned and began its journey around the dangerous space. It would take longer, but Sorenvex was patient. He had hunted targets across dozens of systems before. One damaged cargo ship, and its stubborn human pilot would not escape him. The hunt was not over. It was just beginning. The drifting sparrow limped into Halo's gate with smoke coming from its left engine and warning lights flashing across every system. Connor guided the damaged ship toward the docking bay, praying that nothing would break before they landed. Halo's gate was a human outpost on the edge of Coalition territory. It was not a large station, maybe 5,000 people at most, but it was well defended and fiercely independent. The humans who lived there did not like outsiders telling them what to do. Connor had been here twice before, years ago. He knew someone who worked at the station, an old friend who might be able to help. The ship touched down with a grinding sound that made Henry IV complain for the next 10 minutes. Connor ignored the droid and focused on getting Zira ready. She was nervous. He could see it in the way her 4 eyes kept moving around, watching everything. "It will be okay," he told her. "These are my people. They'll help us." Zira nodded, but she did not look convinced. She had been abandoned by her own people. Trusting others was hard for her now. They left the ship together, Connor walking slowly so Zira could keep up in her mobility frame. The docking bay was busy with workers and traders, all of them human. Some stopped to stare at Zira. She was probably the first Valkyrie they had ever seen. "Connor Hayes, you old trouble magnet." The voice came from a tall man walking toward them. He had short gray hair and a face that had seen too many fights. A long scar ran from his left eye down to his jaw. Despite the rough appearance, he was smiling. "Nathan Cole," Connor said, grabbing the man's hand and shaking it firmly. "Still running security for this place?" "Someone has to keep the idiots in line." Nathan looked at Zira with curious but friendly eyes. "And who is this?" "This is Ziravel. She's... Well, it's a long story. I've got time." Nathan gestured for them to follow him. "Come on. Let's get somewhere private, and you can tell me everything." They went to Nathan's office in the security center. It was a small room filled with screens showing different parts of the station. Nathan sat behind his desk while Connor and Zira sat across from him. Then Connor explained everything that had happened since he found Zira on the cargo platform at Nexus-7. Nathan listened without interrupting. His expression grew darker as the story continued. When Connor mentioned the Valkyrie hunters, Nathan leaned forward. "These hunters, do you know who's leading them?" Information broker said his name was Sornvex. "Scarred face, military type?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "I know that name. He's one of their best trackers. If he's after you, you've got serious problems." "I know. That's why I came here. The ship needs repairs, and we need time to get to Meridian Station. My sister can help Zira there." Nathan was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he looked at Zira. "Girl, I need to ask you something. Do you want to go back to your people?" Zira's silver eyes widened. "No, they left me to die. I have no people anymore. Good enough for me." Nathan stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the station. "Connor, you saved my life during the Frontier Uprising. You pulled me out of a burning ship when everyone else ran away. I told you then that I owed you a debt. You never collected. I didn't save you for a debt. I know. That's why I'm going to help you now." Nathan turned around, and his eyes were hard with determination. "Those hunters want to come to my station? Let them try. Hollow's Gate belongs to humans, and we protect our own." Connor felt relief wash over him. "Thank you, Nathan. Don't thank me yet. We've got work to do." Over the next 2 days, Nathan organized the defense of Hollow's Gate. He called in favors from old military contacts. He armed the station security teams with better weapons. He made sure everyone knew that a Valkyrie hunting party was coming, and that they would not be welcome. Zira watched all of this with amazement. These humans were preparing for a possible fight to protect someone they had just met. Someone who was not even their species. It went against everything she had been taught about how the universe worked. Why are they doing this? She asked Connor one evening. They were sitting in the station's small park, a green space filled with plants from Earth. Zira found the green color strange but beautiful. Because it's right, Connor said simply. But it is dangerous. The Valkyrie might attack. People could be hurt. Connor nodded. Yeah, they could. But that doesn't change what's right. You were abandoned and hunted for no good reason. Standing up against that is more important than staying safe. Among my people, safety is everything. Risk is weakness. Among my people, some things are worth the risk. Connor looked at her with those strange green eyes. You're worth the risk, Zira. She did not know what to say to that. No one had ever said she was worth anything before. The tears came again, but this time she did not feel ashamed of them. The Valkyrie hunting ships arrived on the third day. There were 3 of them. Sleek and dangerous, hanging in space just outside the station's defensive perimeter. Soren Vex's voice came through the communication channels, cold and formal. This is Commander Soren Vex of the Valkyrie Dominion. You are harboring a fugitive asset belonging to our people. Surrender the female known as Ziravel immediately, and there will be no conflict. Nathan Cole stood in the station's command center, surrounded by his security officers. He opened a channel and responded. This is Nathan Cole, head of security for Hollow's Gate Station. The person you're looking for has requested asylum with humans. Your request for surrender is denied. There was a pause. When Soren Vex spoke again, his voice was sharper. You do not understand the situation, human. Ziravel is Valkyrie property. She was legally abandoned under our laws. Her removal by your pilot was an act of theft. You can't steal a person, Nathan replied. She's not property. She's a living being who was thrown away like garbage by her own people. Now she's with us, and we don't give up family. She is not your family. She's not even your species. Doesn't matter. She's under our protection now. Leave, or we'll make you leave. The standoff lasted 6 hours. The Valkyrie ships circled the station like predators waiting for weakness. Inside Hollow's Gate, humans watched the screens and waited. Some were scared, but none of them suggested giving Zira up. Soren Vex tried threats. He spoke of trade sanctions, diplomatic incidents, military response. Nathan ignored all of it. The station's weapons remained locked on the Valkyrie ships. Finally, Soren Vex made his decision. 3 ships against a defended human station with backup on the way was not good odds. He could attack, but the cost would be high, and there was no guarantee of success. This is not over, he transmitted. The girl will answer for this. You all will. Looking forward to it, Nathan replied. The hunting ships turned and flew away into the darkness of space. A cheer went up throughout the station. Humans celebrated in the corridors, in the bars, in the docking bays. They had faced down the Valkyrie and won. Connor found Zira in the park, staring at the artificial sky. She was crying again, but this time there was something different in her expression. They fought for me, she whispered. All these humans, people who do not know me, they were ready to fight for me. Of course they were. Connor sat down beside her. That's what we do. I did not think such kindness existed in the universe. Connor smiled. Well, now you know it does. And you're part of it now. Zira looked at him, her 4 silver eyes reflecting the false stars above. I think I understand humans better now. You are not weak because you care. You are strong because you care. That is your power. Connor nodded. Took you long enough to figure that out. She laughed, and for the first time, the laugh was not afraid or sad. It was joyful. The surgery took 12 hours. Zira lay on the operating table at Meridian Station, while Dr. Emma Hayes and her team worked to repair what the Valkyrie had said could never be fixed. The procedure was experimental. It combined human neural bridge technology with Valkyrie biology in ways that had never been tried before. Connor waited outside the surgery room. He paced back and forth for the first 3 hours, then sat down when his legs got tired. He drank too much coffee. He stared at the door. He tried to read a book but could not focus on the words. Nathan had stayed behind at Hollow's Gate, but he sent messages every few hours asking for updates. Other humans from the station sent messages too. People who had never met Zira but had heard her story. They all wanted to know if she was going to be okay. After 12 hours, Emma finally came out. She looked exhausted, but she was smiling. "It worked," she said. "The neural bridge is connecting. Her brain is learning to communicate with her legs again." Connor felt his knees go weak. He sat down heavily on the nearest chair. "She's going to be okay. It won't be perfect. She needs months of physical therapy. She might always have some difficulty with balance. But yes, Connor, she's going to walk again." The tears came before Connor could stop them. He had not cried in years, but now he could not help it. Relief and joy and exhaustion all mixed together until he was sobbing like a child. Emma sat beside him and put her arm around his shoulders. "You did a good thing, bringing her here," Emma said softly. "You saved her life. I just picked her up off a floor. That's all. That's everything." Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change the whole universe. Zira woke up 2 days later. The first thing she noticed was feeling. There was sensation in her legs, a tingling warmth that she had not felt since the accident. She tried to move her toes. They moved. Not much, just a tiny twitch, but they moved. She cried for an hour. The recovery was long and hard. Physical therapy hurt. Her muscles had weakened during her time without use, and rebuilding them was painful work. Some days she wanted to give up. Some days the progress seemed too slow, the goal too far away. But Connor was there every day, encouraging her, pushing her, believing in her even when she did not believe in herself. Emma was there, adjusting the neural bridge, celebrating every small victory. Henry IV was there, grumpy as always. But somehow that grumpiness made her feel normal. 3 months after the surgery, Zira took her first unassisted steps. Connor was watching from the doorway of the therapy room. He saw her push herself up from the bars, saw her stand on her own 2 legs, saw her take 1 step and then another. Her balance was not perfect. Her movements were slow and careful. But she was walking. He tried to hide his tears. He failed completely. Zira looked at him and smiled. "I told you I would trust you," she said. "You have not let me down." "You did the hard work," Connor replied, his voice thick. "I just carried you to the starting line. Without you, there would be no starting line." News of Zira's recovery spread across the galaxy. The Valkyrie Dominion tried to suppress the story, but information traveled too fast now. People on dozens of worlds learned about the paralyzed alien, girl who had been abandoned by her own people and saved by a human. The Galactic Assembly called a hearing. The Valkyrie demanded Zira's return, claiming she was still technically a citizen of their world. The human delegation responded by presenting evidence of the abandonment. Recordings from Nexus 7. Testimonies from people who had seen Zira left on that cold cargo platform. Then they asked Zira if she wanted to speak. She did, standing before representatives from 100 different species. Zira told her story. She spoke about the accident, about the abandonment, about the fear and loneliness she had felt lying on that platform. She spoke about Connor, about the simple question that had changed everything. "He asked me if I was okay," she said. "No one else in that entire station asked me that. Hundreds of beings walked past me, and not one of them stopped. But a human did. A stranger who had no reason to care about me looked at me and saw someone worth helping." She paused, gathering her thoughts. My people left me to die because I was broken. They told me I had no value, that I was a burden, that I was nothing. A human I had never met carried me to safety because I was alive. He did not ask what I could do for him. He did not calculate whether I was worth the trouble. He simply saw another being in pain and decided to help. Her voice grew stronger. I know now what separates cruelty from kindness. It is not strength. It is not efficiency. It is not survival of the fittest. It is the choice to see another being as worthy of care. The choice to help, even when there is no benefit. The choice to carry someone when they cannot walk, to feed someone when they cannot pay, to fight for someone when they cannot fight for themselves. Zira looked directly at the Valkyrie delegation. Her father was there, she noticed. He would not meet her eyes. Humans taught me that I have value, not because of what I can do, but because of what I am. A living being. A person. I will spend the rest of my life honoring that lesson. I will spend the rest of my days, and I will never return to a people who saw me as disposable. The assembly was silent for a long moment. Then the vote was called. It was not close. Zira was granted asylum in human space by an overwhelming majority. The Valkyrie delegation protested, but their voices were drowned out by the representatives of dozens of species, who had been moved by Zira's words. After the hearing, Connor found Zira sitting alone in a quiet corner of the assembly building. She was looking out a window at the stars. "That was some speech," he said, sitting down beside her. "I meant every word." "I know you did." Connor was quiet for a moment. "So, what happens now?" "You're free. You can go anywhere you want. Do anything you want." Zira looked at him. "I have been thinking about that." "Yeah. The Drifting Sparrow needs a crew. You and Henry IV cannot run that ship alone. Someone needs to help with navigation. Someone needs to keep Henry IV from complaining so much." Connor smiled. "Are you asking for a job?" "I am asking for more than a job. You gave me a family, Connor. You, Emma, Nathan, all the humans who fought for me. I want to stay with that family. I want to be part of your crew. Not as cargo. Not as a passenger. As someone who belongs." Connor's smile grew wider. "I think I can manage that." He held out his hand. Zira took it. The warmth of his skin felt like home now. "Welcome to the Drifting Sparrow," Connor said. "Try not to break anything." Zira laughed. "I make no promises." The news of what happened at Hollow's Gate and the assembly spread far and wide. Other species began to whisper about humans. They had always thought of them as young and emotional and strange. Now they thought of them as something more dangerous, some said. Not because they were violent, though they could be when pushed. Dangerous because they cared. Dangerous because they would cross hostile space for a stranger. Stand against empires for the abandoned. Fight and die for people they had just met. They measured worth not by usefulness, but by existence itself. They believed that every life mattered, that every person deserved kindness, that no one should be thrown away. It was a strange philosophy. It was an inefficient philosophy. But watching Zira walk across the deck of the Drifting Sparrow, laughing at something Henry IV had said while Connor pretended to be annoyed, it was hard to argue that the philosophy was wrong. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness could change everything. Sometimes, all it took was stopping to ask, "Hey, you okay?" And sometimes that was enough to save a life, change a mind, and show the entire galaxy what it truly meant to be human. The Drifting Sparrow flew on toward new adventures, carrying its small, strange family through the stars. And in the cargo bay, where Zira had once slept as a broken and abandoned girl, there was now just an empty bunk. She did not need it anymore. She had found somewhere better to be. She had found home.